if folks are ready, I'm going to bring some people on here, starting with, let's see, Kathy. Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
You can hear me. I hear you. I see you. And Sophia and Jesse. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So good to see you all. And, this is the magic of tech. We are all on one screen from, different corners of the city or the world. And this is amazing. So thank you for being here. And how about we start with a quick round of introductions?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so I'm Kathy Sullivan, a lead program manager on the .NET team. And I also work on our college hiring pipeline for our interns and those who are just graduated from college.
Wonderful. Jesse?
Sure. My name is Jessie Houghton. I'm a senior studying computer science at the University of Michigan. And last summer was my second internship with Microsoft. I was working as a program manager intern.
Wonderful. And Sophia?
Yeah, hi. Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm also a senior I'm at the University of Washington majoring in human-centered design and engineering. And yeah, I was an intern. I've did my internship last summer, and that was my second internship.
Wonderful. All right. So from what I'm hearing is you all have an amazing story to share, or multiple stories to share from internships. And I think the order we want to go in is, Kathy, you want to share first and start things off?
Yep.
All right. So I will give you the floor and be right here in the background. So the stage is all yours.
Awesome. So thanks. So we'll kind of kick off with a little context here. This past summer, we had around 100 interns join us in the developer division in Microsoft. And they experience roles from software engineers to program managers like Jesse and Sophia. And they work on a lot of our products and services like Visual Studio and .NET and VS Code and like Azure App Service, just to name a few of those. And so I brought in, one sec. My deck is frozen, so bear with me 1 second. Anyway, here we go. So I've teamed up with Jesse and Sophia here, who they mentioned that they are program managers this summer, and they're going to share a little bit about some of the exciting projects that they worked on and what it's like to be an intern in our developer division. And 1 sec as I work through this. So I just also want to set a little context on some of the stuff that they're going to share. On our teams in the developer division, we embrace continuous learning and collaboration. So one of the things that you're going to hear Jesse and Sophia talk quite a bit about are the hypotheses that they formed with their teams to make parts of .NET better and to improve developer experiences. And we use this tool called the hypotheses progression framework. And we use it every day in our work. And it allows us to test our assumptions at any stage of the development process. So at the heart of HPF, we call it, we break it down into 4 stages: the customer, the problem, the concept, and features. And so using the HPF, we can go and formulate our assumptions, and we can break them down into testable hypotheses. So we go and we test these hypotheses by running experiments, and of course, talking to all of our customers and .NET developers like you all. And then we take all that data and the insights that we've gathered, and we figure out what to do from there. So a lot of times we repeat this cycle like over and over based on what we're learning here. And fundamentally, the HPF, we want to like address these questions and really work through them. So like really understanding who our customers are, what kind of problems do they have, what pain points do they have, how can we like remove some of those barriers there. And then as we come up with ideas, we call them concepts, and we look to see like, did these concepts solve their problems? Do they find them valuable? And then also like, using those things, and usability is really important. Can they successfully use it? And are they satisfied with it? Like, would they recommend it to someone? So with that said, let's jump right in. And we'll start off with Jessie and her project. So go ahead, Jessie.
Sure. I will switch to my deck. Perfect. All right. Yeah. So I worked on model explainability and responsible AI in ML.NET. So if there are a couple words there that you're not quite familiar with, I'll go through them. But this is my project for the summer. ML.NET is an open source and cross-platform machine learning framework for .NET. And with ML.NET, you can train custom models, you can consume pre-trained models, and it's pretty much built into Visual Studio. So an environment that .NET developers are already super comfortable working in. It allows you to add machine learning into your existing applications and provide a little bit more artificial intelligence or a little bit more smart abilities into your platforms. So my goal in driving the direction of model explainability and responsible AI in ML.NET included a couple different things. I had to ramp up on machine learning in general. It's not something that I had really focused on in my academic career. And so had to learn a lot about it, had to understand where our customers were coming from and what their goals were. And I did a lot of customer development. I collaborated across a couple different teams, and I was able to analyze and present my findings in a specification document and in a deck to leadership. So it was a really productive and exciting internship. The outcomes were that spec I talked about and a deck, as well as reigniting some existing partnerships across the artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies at Microsoft. So now we get into the model explainability part. Model explainability helps us to answer why did the model make certain predictions based on the data you used to train it. So a little background about machine learning. You have a data set and you're using that data set to kind of detect patterns, understand kind of causal relationships or just relationships in general. And then from that data, you can predict some solutions. And so we want to understand how we're creating those solutions. A lot of the time they can be a black box, but as we're learning more about how machine learning works, learning about new algorithms, we can find ways to uncover that black box and answer some of these questions, like why is my model making some mistakes? How am I understanding what kind of features? So features are going to be those aspects of the data that we're using to train. So how can I improve those features, understand if it's making decisions based off the features I want it to? We want to detect any fairness issues. This is super important. Um, and then in that human AI cooperation, understanding the human side as well as the AI side, making that cooperation really smooth, making sure that we're in compliance with any kinds of regulations. And sometimes these can be really high risk applications. So we see these used in healthcare, financial industries, as well as judicial kind of decision making. And we want to make sure that we're making decisions about people that are responsible and that we can understand where those decisions are coming from so that we don't adversely affect people in those fairness scenarios that I speak about at the bottom there. Quality of service, equitable allocation of resources and opportunities, and accurate representation of groups are all values that we hold center to the kind of work that we're doing in fairness and responsible AI at Microsoft. So within ML.NET, we already offered a couple features for model explainability. Model feature importance is a model-specific one. Feature contribution calculator allows for local analysis. And then permutation feature importance, which I'll be referencing a lot, so I'll just call it PFI going forward, is going to be for global analysis. It brings back that idea of those features, those data points that you're using to train your model, and how each of those data points are being used in that decision-making process. Along with PFI, we had a couple tutorials about how to use it, as well as some samples, but they weren't really stitched together in a way that it was easy for people to find. When you're coming into machine learning for the first time, which ML.NET makes it really easy to do, we want it to be just as easy to start that process of developing a responsible and explainable machine learning algorithm. So what we used to have is this old PFI model. If you don't understand everything that's going on this slide, that's not important. The idea here is we had a model and we had to understand a little bit about the transformer objects, how ML.NET is parsing through the data. And so if I'm new to this, I've never seen this kind of information before, it's going to be really hard for me to use that permutation feature importance call to actually get information that's valuable to me. So on the right side, you see the output of calling permutation feature importance, and it tells me, okay, when I'm trying to predict something like taxi fare, trip distance is going to be a really high It's going to be a really important feature used to predict that model. That's super important and interesting information for me as the person who created the model, but being able to get that information using this API was really difficult. And we were able to confirm our hypothesis that this was super difficult. We had 8 participants in a user study, and these are 8 people that have either seen machine learning in other products before, or they are ML.NET users. None of those participants were able to complete our task of using permutation feature importance with AutoML. And so that kind of shows that this is really difficult to use, even for people who have seen ML.NET before. ML.NET, new ML.NET users or new ML users in general don't really know how to integrate explainability. The more experienced users also want to see some more advanced features. We wanted to gather some more data than just the 8 participants, and so we sent out a survey. We got 300 plus respondents, and these are people who are using ML.NET every day. Only 9% said that they were already working on fairness, so we'd like to bump that number up. We think fairness is a really important aspect to creating machine learning algorithms. Around 50% had never even used or heard of the explainability features in ML.NET, and so that kind of represented an opportunity for us to make that a little bit more accessible. And they'd like to see a little bit more help, documentation, samples, tutorials, things that are going to help them include these things. And we also got some feature requests for more advanced explainability. So with that, one of the main things that we did was improve the PFI API. We went from 8 lines to 1 line, giving you that same output about what are the most important features in your model. So that was really exciting. And we also came up with some mockups for what an evaluate page might look like. If you're not familiar with ML.NET, this is the model builder interface. You can see on the left, it's a little small, but it shows you how you can walk through your scenario, through your environment, data, train, consume, and next steps. And so we kind of proposed to add an evaluate tab, or within the evaluate tab to include some automated generated graphs to show you the permutation feature importance. So maybe I'm not super familiar with what that decimal number means, but on a graph, I can tell super easily that trip distance is going to be the biggest feature contributing to how my model is predicting. We came up with another mockup showing what an added explain page might look like. And this was heavily influenced by existing products and how they show model explainability. As a new user, this might be an opportunity to help me learn more about how to interpret models for future projects. And for an advanced user, this is kind of the information that I'm expecting the tooling to give to me. So our key insights from our second user study after kind of implementing this update, our customers were wholly more successful. They didn't require any help or encouragement or hints on how to solve the problem. So that was really awesome to see. They were really excited about some of these mockups that we had made about how to add explainability like directly into the pipeline. So it's already integrated and they don't have to generate graphs on their own. And then along the dimension of fairness, we see it as our responsibility to encourage fairness. And within the tooling, we think that while fairness is the responsibility of both the user and our side, we can definitely emphasize fairness in the creation of these models. So there's a lot of information on this slide, but as an overall, these were the next steps that I came up with in kind of describing the general direction of where we wanted to go with model explainability and responsible AI in ML.NET. And we got some real world results. So that improved PFI API has already shipped. And hopefully if you're looking for explainability, you can find it. The model explainability and responsible AI steps that I had outlined have been added to the roadmap for ML.NET, so you can keep tabs on those. And that wasn't the only thing I got up to during my internship. I was also able to work on creating some new scripts for the ML.NET 101 videos. Those are a little bit outdated, so we want to keep those up to date to allow people to access ML.NET. And then as a summary of some of the other fun things I learned this summer, I definitely leveraged the HPF framework that Kathy was talking about in the introduction. I was able to balance trying something new with understanding when is the time to ask for help. And that's a really unique part of, well, it's a really unique part of any internship or work experience, but especially during the pandemic, it can be hard in a virtual setting to ask for help. And that was something that I really learned and leveraged. I found expertise both inside and outside my team and really grew my network. And I was able to find some ways to contribute to the broader mission of the team and communicate with a variety of audiences. Some of the other fun stuff was I collaborated with some other interns, and we read a couple books in a book club. That was a really fun way to bring people together virtually. We read Sapiens and Brave New World. I would recommend both. I pitched a program with another intern to support elders through technology through a intern MS Invent competition. And I also received the Accessibility in Action badge. So this shows that there's lots of learning opportunities and lots of fun stuff to do during your internship. And now I will pass it off to Sophia to tell us about her story.
Awesome. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm Sophia. I was also a PM intern, and I had 2 projects this summer to share with you. So my main project was doing the .NET Learn Portal redesign. So we took the Learn Portal that gives a lot of intro lessons to .NET, and then cleaned it up, did some user interviews, and created suggestions for the upcoming website redesign. Then I also did a side project that took up half of my time, the creating C# 101 interactive notebooks. I'll start with the side project because it's pretty quick. So I pretty much took all of the videos of C# 101 and made it into an interactive notebook. So that creates a bunch of, like you can have text and then cells of code, and really helps break up learning and lets each little bit of code be interactive. So users can really play around with it. You can have like instructions of this cell of code isn't complete. Can you finish it? And it was really fun to figure out how the best way to do it was. Then for my main project was redesigning the .NET Learn Portal website. So the current website looks like this. There's a bunch of stuff in there, but we can focus in on the bunch of beginner tutorials and a bunch of the continue learning icons. So there's a couple different issues with the website. First off, there's a really big difference in focus. The users really only use these 3 icons, the get started for console, get started in C#, and the get started in web. Those were the majority share of what people were clicking on when they got onto the website. Other stuff were not clicked on too much. And then you can see within the website, this is a heat map of scrolling. Most people stayed right at the top and didn't scroll, so all of the learning resources don't get seen very often. Beyond that, there's the secondary pages. So if you clicked on one of the learning materials, it took you to this website, this site that housed all of the different learning materials for like the web or the mobile. There was a high bounce rate for that. Bounce rate is when a user clicks on something and it takes them to a space, they don't like the space, they don't need the space, they just leave the website entirely. So that means that the space isn't useful. So people seem to be trying to find learning materials and then not getting what they want. So I had a bunch of hypotheses. We don't need to go into full details into them, but in general, I thought that maybe the website might be kind of overwhelming to look at. There might be some lack of hierarchy. We know that the scrolling loses content, but we didn't know like how much content it lost. We thought that maybe the secondary pages were a little inconsistent, so that made people feel a little bit uncomfortable, or that people really wanted specific learning styles to do, and they couldn't find them since everything was kind of mixed together. I created a Figma little mock-up of an alternative website. I did a bunch of like competitive analysis of different learning websites and kind of combined them into this space, where instead of just lists of stuff, you have actual learnings. And they've got different amounts of hierarchy. So you've got recommended, you've got popular learnings, you've got other learnings. Oh wait, I can share you with that. There's popular learnings, other learnings, and then exploring places beyond that website. So going to LinkedIn or Microsoft Learn or stuff like that. And then having filters so that people could choose like, hey, I'm a beginner, I just want the one-on-one videos, or I have a specific subject and I'm going to search by subject. So it gives you more options of what you want to search through. Then I did interviews. The interviews were really great. They weren't quite the group that we wanted. They were a little bit more advanced in learning C# than we were expecting, than we were trying to get for. But their reviews were really interesting and really useful to us. So with that, we had a bunch of takeaways. These are all of the slides, all of the little sticky notes that I created while doing, like, filtering all of their info and then sorting them. It was quite a time. The hypotheses were invalidated and validated. So people actually really found the first website to be really pretty. They didn't think that there was a lack of hierarchy. They had plenty of, it seemed pretty to them and what they wanted. Scrolling loses content. They did have issues with scrolling, but they didn't really feel like the stuff below needed to be seen as much. And then stuff that was validated was that the inconsistent secondary pages were frustrating, and people really liked the option to filter things by learning styles or other things. So my result that I decided to go with and presented was to keep the main page, all of that stuff, and then update the secondary page that those pages had high bounce rates into something that was closer to this format, because the interviewers did like this format. They just didn't want it as a main page. So that way, when you are looking through and choosing a learning material, say you want to go to the web, you would get a page like this that has like a big recommended thing, a popular learning, and such. So there'd be a getting started one that's like for 101, really simple stuff. If you're a user who doesn't have any experience and you just want one video to click, that would be the one. Then there'd be popular learnings and other learnings, where there's ones that are kind of more recommended, and then there's all of the other resources that you could select. And then there'd be the filter that users could use. So once I completed that, I had some next steps. I presented all my findings and submitted all the documents to my team. The Microsoft now has all of that information. So in future, when you do an overhaul of the website or anything, you have that data that you can use if you want it. And then otherwise, the interactive notebooks that I made are in use and are popular enough, which is really exciting. And looking back, I met a lot of really cool humans. It was really fun to interact with everybody, such as Kathy and Jesse. And I got to try out a bunch of different things, like all of the user interviews, designing in Figma, doing all the, just trying out different coding things, which was really great to give me a perspective of what I can do as a PM. I feel like I built useful material, such as the interactive notebooks that are in use. I also got to hang out with interns, and we actually had an art group exchange, which was super fun to do. So yeah, now I'll let Kathy join in. If Kathy can be heard.
Sorry. We're all set. Cool. So thank you both so much for sharing your projects with us. Some of you who are watching might be wondering how you can apply for an internship at Microsoft. So I pulled together some links to get you started. This is the best place for you to go and learn about all the different types of internships and roles, and also locations where you can be an intern. And so take a look at that link and sorry, and then at the next slide, I've got the quick how you can apply. And so Sophia's helping us build out the slide here, but apply on there, and then you can see kind of the flow that you would go through if you kind of get through the resume review and then the interviews that might take place before getting an offer. So please go out, submit your resume, take a look at what we have. We'd be super excited to have any new folks come and join our team for the summer or whenever it happens to work out. So I think we got some time for some questions if there are any.
Okay, hey, so let me start with my set of questions, and we do have some good comments here that we're going to bring up. But first, let me ask you this: for any tech company, and as well as like for university students, like internships are such an amazing experience, right? You are getting to work on real stuff, and you're getting all that experience, and from a tech company perspective, you are getting to see so much talent. So maybe Kathy, this may be a question for you. And when we get interns in, it's not an unlimited amount of time, right? And they might be coming from like a variety of different experiences and backgrounds. What is the framework to get people up to speed and be productive as quickly as they can?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the typical internship is 12 weeks. It can vary slightly based on lots of different reasons, but typically what we're doing when we have interns come in is we give them a call, a month or two before they come join, and we kind of see like where their interests are, what they're passionate about, so that it's really important that we try to match them to a place where they are going to have fun, where they're really excited to work on that product or that service or that tool or whatever. And then we have, like a team with a manager and a mentor paired up for them to go and join that team. And so it's really important, that we have the right manager for that intern, right? And then we have that mentor who also has a lot of time, has expertise, and also passion for mentoring and coaching someone too. And so then beyond that, like each team has sort of their own routines for onboarding and getting familiar with things, and team meetings and, sprint meetings and all that. But we do try to keep, the interns in their own sort of tight knit community as well too. Sophia and Jesse can kind of speak to like, there's lots of events going on during the week with like, maybe the PMs are all meeting and maybe all the software engineers meeting, and then maybe a bigger group with our, different teams across the division and whatnot. And so, they're they're absorbing so much as they're going through, and I'll let Sophia and Jesse add in anything else they might want to add.
Yeah, there's it's a really fun experience, and I feel like Microsoft does a really good job at catering to their interns. I know that the last two internships were all online for everybody, so we didn't get like the full internship experience that Microsoft is well known for, but there were a bunch of meetings, like different ways to interact with other interns, which I had a lot of fun with. Like I said, I like had an art group that we did like a kind of collaborative art thing. And yeah, there's so many humans to interact with.
Yeah, I
Jesse,
guess.
anything to add?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is that you get, you have a little orientation, you have an onboarding buddy to get you up to speed, figure out like where all the notebooks and all the where your team kind of keeps all of the information that you might need. And every person that I ever interacted with was so willing to give me a little bit of time on their calendar to walk me through something, to tell me how something goes, or to help me figure out like how do I present in a stand-up, like what are those things that I need to be doing. And then the intern program provides things like little seminars or workshops about like how to ace your internship, or what is the difference, how do you tell between PM and SWE, and figuring those things out. So yeah, amongst making lots of friends, you also get a lot of support.
Yeah. And, I mean, every team has their own way of working, right? And all the jargons that we kind of build up over the years. So it can be daunting, but like you said, like if you have the right folks who are willing to give a little bit of time to kind of help you be more successful, it makes a world of difference. So let me ask a question here of Jesse and Sophia. And you may or may not be having both, but tell us maybe one really awkward and one really fun experience that you had.
Ooh. You have to think about it. I think an awkward experience I had was actually in my first internship. I was a coding intern, a software engineer intern, for the first time, and it was like when the pandemic had just started. It was like spring instead of summer, where I like took the quarter off and did the internship. And it just the combination of I'm not really as interested in being a software engineer as I am being a PM, and like the fact that the pandemic was happening and it was just a really huge load on my brain. I didn't do that internship very well and had to talk to my manager about like, hey, this is a little overwhelming. Honestly, I prefer the PM role. Like, and they immediately, it was really awkward to like start the conversation, but immediately like I got pivoted. Kathy helped out with it to like do kind of an exploration of the PM role in like the second half of my internship, and then like I got to come back this time and then get the whole 12 weeks to do an actual project, which was super fun. So yeah, that was my awkward experience. I'd say my fun experience was doing the collaborative art piece. We'd have craft and chats every week with a couple interns, and where we'd just hang out and do art like while in a Teams meeting. And I really liked doing that.
Nice. Jesse, anything to add?
Yeah, so you gave me a bit of time to think of my awkward experience. And so my first internship, again, it was remote, and Microsoft does an intern day where they try and showcase their interns and bring in some fun guests and speakers. And a intern group that I was working on was trying to like choreograph a dance as like just a fun thing between us. And then we got like tapped by the intern day committee to like get our dance featured. And I swear they like picked the worst dance move. Like, I am not a dancer. And they broadcast it on intern day to like thousands of interns. It was so embarrassing, but it was very funny. That like people recognized me and were like, oh my God, smooth moves and stuff. The most fun, well, definitely hard to pick the most fun, but I don't know. I'm a real sucker for user interviews. I love talking to people about these products. Like, that maybe makes me a nerd, but I think we're all a little a little bit of nerds that way. Because it's so cool to hear from the people that are using it every day. Like, especially working on Visual Studio, there are people who've been using Visual Studio every day, like for longer than I've been alive, and having like the honor to talk to them and to try and make that product better for them was really, really cool.
Yeah, well said. Let me bring up my screen here. I'm just going to try to highlight two things here, because I think what's being shared here and what we all appreciate here is these amazing stories. And like we started with, Elon, and then Sophia and Jesse. These are amazing stories of success and the impact you're able to make in such a small amount of time. And we are kind of running maybe a minute or so late for the next session, but I do want to highlight this thing here from our good friend Brady Gaster. It's we are all living through a global pandemic. Maybe things are slowly kind of crawling back to normalcy, and it's amazing to kind of be around humans, right? Again, but Kathy, like, how did the internship programs have to pivot? I know it's a lot, but in short, like, what did you have to do different to have everything be remote?
Yeah, we definitely had to figure out how to like, of course there's a Microsoft wide orientation, but we had to figure out how to like pivot this whole like boot camp and how to like get everybody familiar with all of our, tools and frameworks and all the things that we just take for granted that we all just do every day. Right. And so we had a small team of all hands on deck, and we have like a rolling entry of interns. They don't all start at the same time. It's over like a span of 2 months, so it's pretty much like everybody in that little team is just focusing on onboarding all these interns, making sure they feel connected, they've got that network that Jesse talked about, introducing them to people, checking in with them on Teams. How's it going? How you doing? Like, make sure you take your breaks, enjoy the weekend. So it was something we've all never experienced before, but by the second year we're pros at it now, so we're good.
All right, so this is amazing. Thank you, Kathy and everybody else at Microsoft who drives such a wonderful internship program. And Jesse and Sophia, thanks for sharing your experiences. We wish you the best of luck. I mean, you have already done amazing work in a short amount of time, so just keep doing what you're doing. You have a long, successful road ahead of you. So thank you for being here and for this wonderful session here. So I will let you all go because I see our next speaker is waiting. So thank you, Kathy, Jesse, and Sophia.
Thanks, everyone.